Hello and good afternoon. Happy Friday. Welcome to the deep dive. What is up, my friend Doug TDY892 over on YouTube? Thanks for hanging out here in the chat with us. Let us go to the browser and Adafruit.com and CircuitPython.com. Get those loaded up. We'll do a quick intro for anyone who might be new. If you do not know, my name is Tim. I go by Foamy Guy on GitHub and Discord. This is the Deep Dive, which is weekly live stream where we are diving into CircuitPython, working on nitty-gritty stuff either in the CircuitPython core itself or the libraries or infrastructure, all different aspects of the project that we get into on this stream when I'm around. This stream was originally started by Scott Shawcroft, lead developer of CircuitPython. When he's around, he's usually working in the C layer, the CircuitPython core. And when I am here, I do sometimes work at a higher level, although we do venture down into the core sometimes as well. Just kind of depends on what I have cooking for the week. This week we will be at the Python level. We'll do some reviews, we'll do some Fruit Jam stuff. But I am probably getting ahead of myself for anyone who is actually new. If you don't know at all what I am talking about, the sort of main theme to this stream is CircuitPython. CircuitPython is a version of Python that runs on tiny computers called microcontrollers, like these ones, or this one over here. CircuitPython, when you put it on these devices, the way it typically works, you plug them into your computer. They show up like a thumb drive. You can edit a Python code file on that thumb drive, and when you save it, the microcontroller, the computer that is in the chips on these devices, will actually execute that Python code for you, and your Python code can interface with other assorted bits of electronic hardware. So this Fruit Jam mini computer device has a load of built-in hardware. It has a Wi-Fi chip, it has an SD card slot, it has a DVI output, it has an audio DAC with a headphone jack and a speaker plug-in, it has a USB hub with ports. So there are loads and loads of built-in pieces of hardware on this Fruit Jam. Other devices like these Raspberry Pi Picos, they are pretty much bare bones. They have exactly what they need for the microcontroller to work, and that is pretty much it. And it's up to you to connect your own devices to these I/O pins. So if you wanted to have a USB hub, you could connect it up to this, but you kind of have to do that bit yourself. So that is the high level of CircuitPython and microcontrollers. If you do want to learn more about CircuitPython, you can do so at the main website, circuitpython.org. I would also encourage you to join us down on the Discord, which is noted down there, adafru.it/Discord. There's CircuitPython dev channel. There's a help with CircuitPython channel. Both of those are good places to hang out and read along if you want to know what's going on in the CircuitPython world, or if you want to just learn about the project and code that uses it. As always, we'll say thanks to Adafruit. Adafruit is a hardware and software company based out of New York. They are the ones who make CircuitPython possible by paying a team of folks, including myself and Scott, who I mentioned earlier. They pay us to work on CircuitPython and publish all the software, with open source licenses, which is really cool. If you would like to help support them and the CircuitPython project, one of the easiest ways to do it is by purchasing hardware from them on their website at adafruit.com. They have all sorts of microcontrollers, including the Fruit Jam, although I think it is out of stock, unfortunately, at this particular instant. But there are more and more being made all the time. If you wanted a Fruit Jam, you could throw your email in the notify me thing there, and you will get a message when the new ones are available. But there are, of course, a huge number of different microcontroller devices that you can get here, as well as all sorts of different stuff to hook up to it, like eating screens and TFT screens and buttons and lights and beepers and buzzers. Oh my. You can get all kinds of little doodads here as well to hook up to your microcontrollers to make other fun projects and things with. And with that, I will say what is up to Retired Wizard and Yano over in the Discord chat. Nice to see you both, my friends, today. Retired Wizard, you have got, I think these are both yours, right? Yeah, I've got a couple of PRs of yours pulled up to look through here. So it is apropos that you are around. Which one do I want to start with? So I have both of these pulled up. One of them is Minesweeper. One of them is the Chips Challenge audio. And I do have a Fruit Jam loaded up here instead of a Metro. Probably we'll go back and test this on a Metro at some point as well, but it should be the same, I believe, for the most part. So primarily I'll test on the Fruit Jam. I had the Metro out for some stuff I was doing earlier, but I did put it away. So maybe we could run and grab it later. We'll see how time goes. I think that with the right mouse button, let's work on. Let's look at audio first. So this one's a bit older as well, and it kind of waited for a while so that we could update the audio APIs, the volume APIs in the Fruit Jam library, and then we made some adjustments there as well. So I appreciate you waiting on this one. I know it's hung out for a couple of weeks. We'll start here. And this is basically, I think, allowing the user, the end user, to set the volume of the game. So Larzio Paint Music, obviously it's like a music-making toy, music-making game. This is then going to let you set the volume there. One thing we could do is... Do we want to, though? Maybe not. One thing we could do is use the new one of these. Sorry, I'm not using my words very effectively right now. Fruit Jam OS, I think, is where this is at. Let me go Fruit Jam OS GitHub. It's probably the second result, but I'm just going to search it. I think we don't want to use this, though, actually. I'm headed towards this to show you what it is, but I think we actually don't want to use it in this case. There is now a launcher config.py, which essentially has the same logic from here, which is opening the launcher config file. For anyone who doesn't know, Fruit Jam OS is kind of the sort of operating system built on top of Fruit Jam, and then launcher config.py is a JSON file that Fruit Jam OS, the launcher, and at this point actually a couple of other files. I'm halfway regretting calling it launcher config and not Fruit Jam OS config or something, but I think it's relatively fine, not that big of a deal, and it would be kind of a pain to change at this point. But there's a couple components within Fruit Jam OS that use this config file. And then this class makes it very easy to do. So on some level, it might be nice to use that class here, but the bit that makes it a little bit awkward is there's actually two of them changed here. But the bit that makes it a little awkward is there's not. These can run outside of Fruit Jam OS, right? So they might not have that file, and I don't think it's worth like adding that class to this project just so that it can work outside of Fruit Jam OS, because that's also going to mean like duplicating that class when you put it inside Fruit Jam OS. Now you have two copies of it, which is weird. Yeah. So I think just opening the file like it is here is good for now. Someday maybe I will get inspiration of a good middle ground sort of third spot where this could exist and maybe other things could make use of it. But I don't have a clear idea in my head right now where that would be. I don't think it makes sense in the Fruit Jam library, so it's like, I don't know if it makes sense to make its own library, maybe. I don't know. I'll noodle on it in the back of my brain a bit, but I think just doing it like this is probably the best way to go for right now. I am going to open this in PyCharm just because the Git hub interface here, the width of it is making this a little crazy on the white space there. Let's go to learn, learn, Adafruit learning right there. I find myself always looking for the L at the beginning, forgetting that it's actually Adafruit learning. These days I will remember that. Okay. Go, and I don't think this part matters, but I kind of do it out of habit at this point. Update main and then GHPR list. Check out. Get the 3103. Okay. And then what we can do is here I can go compare with main, or compare with the other way around. And we can get the commits that exist in this, but not main. Then I can get essentially the same thing that GitHub is showing me, but I have more fine-grained control over the width. Yeah, and you can see here, like, the white space is so much more coherent. Okay, so basically we got rid of pins, because these are going to be conditional, I presume. So they need to be inside of some other logic. So we have... Okay. We open up the config file. There are three places where it can look for the config file, because we have the... Essentially it boils down to they're just different places with different rules, which make them convenient for different occasions. So the one in the root is nice because you can edit it from your PC, the PC that the FruitJam is plugged into with the USB cable. The SD card is nice because you can edit it from the FruitJam itself. You can also take it out of the FruitJam and then edit it and then put it back in, right? And then saves is nice because it gets mounted as writable. So you can edit files inside of there in the built-in editor. Theoretically, SD card too, although I don't know if I tested that. Config. So that's going to open it up. It's going to check, like, you know, those could exist in all three places. So it's going to open them up. It's going to actually build up all the configs in all of them. They get all combined together. If there is no audio, then we just leave it blank there, empty dictionary. And then here we go. Ah, okay, I see what's happened here. So this stuff is no longer necessary because also this was refactored to use the FruitJam library, which is nice. I appreciate you doing that, Red Wizard. So yeah, inside the FruitJam library, it initializes the DAC, which means the user code, the actual project, doesn't have to like bother with the I2C and the pins and setting all that stuff up, which is nice. And those, yeah, a couple of folks have done good work making sure that also runs on the Metro too. And we should check, actually. I assume they default to these pins. Is that the case? Because technically you could have those on any pins, I suppose. Guessing that they default to those. It was actually in the folder I needed. Maybe the pins are declared somewhere else. So this is mostly just if they have those pins. But there was... Maybe I gotta keep looking, actually. Maybe this handles a different way. So it goes FruitJam, it goes audio output, it goes I2C. Ah, right, yes, I didn't look... yeah, okay. Gotta actually look at the rest of it. So we do still need pins. Yeah. I see. Okay. So basically what's happening here, the DAC gets initialized inside of here. Actually, so does an audio instance. Well, actually it doesn't because we just saw the code here, in fact. So an audio instance, an audio bus IO I to S out, to be specific, an instance of this would get created if these pins existed, but they will not on the Metro, which this is primarily, like it started life as a Metro project. It does run on the Fruit Jam, that's where I'm going to test it as well. So on the Metro, it would get to here, the DAC would still be initialized because the DAC does not have, it just uses I2C, which does get passed through there. And the Metro does still have I2C on the same. And then this would basically connect over stemma and then the other pins as well. Okay. Okay, and then yeah, we did, we have safe volume limit. So you can go higher if you would like. And then if it is not on the Fruit Jam, it won't get the audio instance like we just saw, so that is where this is getting created. And it does just put it on the peripherals.audio object, which is the same place where it would go otherwise, which means all the rest of the code will just work. For the Fruit Jam, very similar, except it won't need to do the TLV. It won't need to do the audio thing afterwards. Yeah, gets the DAC. It's interesting that this has self.tlv, which is on the sound manager inside this project, but doesn't have, did it have audio before? It did. Oh, okay, it had self.audio. I wonder if we should also do self.audio still. Oh. Gotta actually read the code. Turns out it's right there. Okay. I will focus on the part that I'm actually reading instead of thinking ahead. Yeah, that's all the same. The depth, so those are going to be set for the files in this project. And they're the same as they used to be. Okay, and then yeah, in no matter which case, so in both cases, self.audio does get set to audio from the peripherals. Oh, well, safe gets set here. I think I rather see these as two fields. So like this field sets this thing. I wouldn't even mind it just matching the exact same name, although volume override danger, I don't necessarily dislike either. I'd be probably fine leaving that too, because it does. I like the idea of having safe or danger in it, right? Because I do think essentially the recommendation is don't mess with it. If you try the default and it's too quiet, then this is the way that you can get it louder. This is one of the ways that you can get it louder. But if you do choose to exceed it, it's kind of like on your own, potentially could blow out your speaker depending on what kind of speaker you're hooking up to it. It's meant to be a relatively conservative limit. So I would say, like, in my mind, I think set the safe volume limit from the volume override danger, but then the volume here should not get set from that. I can see how it's like convenient because you could have only one field. If you wanted one that was higher than the limit, then doing it this way makes it so that you could just set that only, and it would take care of both things for you, which is convenient, but I think that I like it more being explicit. Having one of them does one thing only, the safe volume limit is only what that one does, and then volume only does volume, and they both do their own thing. But that is an easy change. That's basically just taking this out. Because the safe volume limit already gets set here and up here as well from that. So then from the user's perspective, like you would have to use both the safe, like when you did want to go higher, you'd have to use both, which I look at like it's an inconvenience, but on some level, I'm trying to make it inconvenient to go higher, to make it harder for people to do accidentally. Yep. Okay. And then the only other change is down here, which is turn off speaker. Okay. So let's test that out. I need to plug in. I don't have the camera, the top-down camera today. I have the VLC loaded up with the output from the HDMI, from the DVI port, I should say, that's flowing through an HDMI cable, an HDMI-shaped plug. But the top-down camera, actually, I took downstairs today because I was working on some other photography for other guides. I didn't bring it back up. So you'll have to trust me right now when I tell you that I am plugging in some USB speakers. They're powered by USB, and they have a 3.5mm plug-in. And I'm also plugging in a USB mouse. This project uses a mouse. There's a problem with that. I need to think about it for a second. Okay. I will think as well. See if anything comes to mind for me. Okay. We may discover it as well, because I'm going to try deleting that section in a minute. I'll try it as is first, and then afterwards I'll try deleting it. See what happens here. It's actually... Can I? I cannot. Okay, yeah. This thing is nice because it lets you go to the file that you're looking at, but I'm not actually looking at a file. I'm looking at a comparison, which is like not a file, technically. Larzio should maybe get us there. Yeah. Back up with that. So a lot of this stuff already exists. It's gonna complain. Was mostly to delete it. There's a lot of it. I'll just do override on the rest. It's like it didn't ask, but it's just slow sometimes. Not all apps support the danger overrides, so if you set the common volume to something over the default of 12, they will fail when they try to set the volume too high. I would say any code that respects the volume should respect the safe volume limit also. So if there is any code currently that does only volume and not the limit, we should add the limit to that. Yeah, my thought is it should be like all or none. Either the project should read the launcher and do both the safe volume limit and the actual volume setting, or the project should just ignore the config altogether. I don't recommend the latter, but that is one option. Just having it do volume only, but not the safe limit, I don't think we should do. Although I'm open to ideas if there's like some project that makes that like untenable or something. I'm trying to think if there's any where that would not work for some reason. But I think nothing obvious comes to mind. This is okay, this is it, yeah. All right. This might have already been running. Take it a second to load up. There we go. Okay. This is up. I actually have no idea if I currently have a launcher config or not, and then secondarily I have no idea what volume in it might be right now. I do currently. And it is just on 12, which is the maximum safe. Yes, but if you have two apps, both know about the safe volume, but only one knows about the danger override, you can't use a volume over 12 because the one that doesn't know about the danger override will crash. Yeah, no, I agree that's true, but I guess what I'm saying is we should not have, that second app should be updated to know about the override. Instead of having this code do both, wherever it was at in here, my opinion would be it's better to have any apps that only do volume don't do that. They should do both. They should do safe volume and volume, and they should do it essentially the same way this one does, where safe volume gets set from that one, regular volume gets set from the other one, and then we would get rid of this middle one here where it's setting the volume from the safe volume. Yeah, like the app needs to know if, like, it kind of boils down to if the app is gonna do volume, it needs to do both, I think. If it's going to do volume like from the config file, I mean, right? Obviously, it could do its own whole thing. It could just declare the volume, or it could have a knob, or like there's a bunch of things that it could do other than the config file. But if it is going to do the config file, I think it should do volume from one, safe limit from one, and any app that does that should all do it. Let's see here. Have a mouse which I failed to turn on. And therefore, I think this will maybe not work. So let's try restarting it. Oh, attributor. We'll see. Maybe I need to reset further, but we'll try it this way. No working mouse. Oh. Is there any way the speakers could impact the mouse? So I do have the speaker plugged into the other USB port on the Fruit Jam, just because that was a convenient place for getting power from. Actually, you know what? Let me leave it plugged in. Let me leave it plugged in. Let me do a full reset here with the reset button. Just do a full click that. Reach the end of the reach the end of the playlist there. Okay, there we go. Boot animation. That's a headphone? I think I heard that. Of course, I have my earbud in that ear. I will say too, I noticed after the fact, like I was talking about the volume before, we tweaked the default volume level. One thing that I have noticed since doing that is that the boot animation wave file is actually still kind of, it's still pretty quiet, honestly, even with the default set. Even if you go all the way up to 12. I think what I'm going to do is boost that file just a little bit, rather than tweaking the volume again. Essentially what I did was, when I was testing the new volume levels, I was testing with a thing that wasn't the boot animation. Essentially, I was testing with oh, this mouse is wrecked. Is this trying to do that mouse thing? Is this trying to do that I think this might be trying to do that mouse thing. This might be trying to do that, like, descriptor, change the mouse to a different mouse or whatever, but that's not been working for me. That just breaks my mice. UI manager.find mouse. Main loop. Handler.find mouse. Yeah, this thing doesn't work for me. Let me go. I guess I'll go get the other mouse. I'll go get the the one, right? There's one that's been kind of, there's, you know, the cheap one that's in the store has kind of been the baseline one. That is not what I do currently have plugged in. I have a different thing plugged in. This looks a lot like it, but it doesn't actually have the logo, which is interesting. Or if that was just a really early batch or something. Okay. Let me grab that mouse. Let me see if that's any different. I don't know what I don't necessarily know. Like in truth, I think this shouldn't. I think we need to not do this really, because this, from what I can tell, this is breaking all the mice that I have tested it with. From what I understand, there are perhaps other mice out there that need this or that still work after you do this, but for me, there's been a few projects that had this in it, and all of them, they make them, like you can see here, I'm moving, well, you can't see because I don't have the camera as noted before, but like I'm actually moving left and right. Mouse is going left and right, but it's like locked on this vertical line. It like won't actually go anywhere else. This does not really have anything to do with the changes in the PR, though, to be clear. This is like a different thing. Let me try the other mouse. Yeah, I'll be right back. Have I flashed the, let me, I think I do, but let me actually check. That's a really good point. Yeah, okay. BRB. Okay, it was actually closer than I thought, but because I did not realize that, I went to where I thought it was. Yeah. Yeah, I think this, I don't, like, have only a rudimentary knowledge of USB stuff. So I don't exactly know what it's like changing the types, control transfer, it's like changing it to a different protocol or something. It on the surface is cool because it would let us use the scroll wheel, which would be cool. If I understand right, but it seems to me that it's like maybe not the same for every mouse, or else that there is something about this code that is either not right or doesn't work on every mouse or something. Okay, so I do now have the actual plain USB mouse from the store, the one that all of these projects essentially are documented with. This one right here, in fact. So I have this plugged in. Let this thing go. Okay, this one works. One thing is VLC is a little behind, so I don't know if it looks laggy to you. I guess maybe not as much since you can't see or feel me moving the mouse, but it is actually a little bit laggy, but that's mostly the capture card, I believe. Oop. Meatball. Okay, I don't know if this will come through. Doesn't look like it. It's honestly, it is another one where the default is a little bit low, right? Because we should be on 12, which is the maximum unless you override the maximum. So it's kind of the same. I wish I would have tested more wave files with the volume. Maybe I will end up bumping the volume just a tad further. We'll see. One of the problems with the headphone volume is like the default volume that makes sense for a pair of earbuds might not be the same default volume that makes sense for like what I have here, a pair of USB powered speakers. So it's like difficult to find a middle ground that's like okay on both, as okay as it can be on both. I am for now just gonna crank it though a little bit higher, like so. I'll try 15, and then we will need to do both. What file is that in Sound Manager? Volume override danger. So I'll set that to 15, and then the volume to 15 as well. One thing I want to do, actually, I think it would be cool to hook up, this is like super weird, but I would like to hook up a barcode scanner. So there's USB barcode scanners that basically just behave to be keyboards. I would like to hook up a barcode scanner to this app and change it so that when you scan a barcode, it will type all the numbers, right? And then what would happen is it will use those numbers to like plot things on the board. So every barcode would kind of have a unique song stored inside of it based on that algorithm that does the conversion. It would be nice. Well, I think it just would be fun because I like barcodes and that kind of thing is interesting to me. Yeah, right away, in fact, I can hear that it plays when I click now. My mousing is not the best, but gotta play some Minesweeper, get my fine motor control on the mouse up. I just like that kind of thing. I think is cool. Barcodes, just using them as input for other stuff, I think is interesting because you can then you can just go around and scan like everything in your house and find out what song is inside of it, which is fun. But the other thing that would be cool about that is when I was doing testing like this, I could just boop scan one or two things, and I'd have a full a bunch of notes just preloaded without having to click as much. There we go. Still kind of quiet. I don't know if any of those came through. Try a little bit louder again. Oop. It definitely did get louder though. So the actual change from the PR is definitely working. Oh man, I don't know that I heard the Lars one before. That's pretty funny. Those are kind of quiet. There we go. That one came through. I could see it bouncing on the OBS one. Hopefully it wasn't too loud. So that's definitely working. The drums work best across the top or the bottom. Which ones are drums? Is that the tink tink? Or was the meatball drums? That one's like a cymbal. Oh yeah. Oh. Okay, this is different kinds of drum depending on what note you're on. I see. So at the top it's like cymbals, and at the bottom it's different drum. There's like snares in there somewhere. The Lars. The Lars gets me. Bottom, yellow, okay. On the top or bottom, yeah. Okay. So that's good. I will try real fast. Sound manager, let's just make sure deleting this doesn't do anything crazy. I don't think it should, but whoop. Well, if we do that, it will. We could keep that. We could keep that. Oh. Wait, what? Oh, if and then elif. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Why is this red because of that? That makes no sense. Realistically, elif. Oh, okay, because we have another elif here. And that's where the. Okay. I'm caught up now. Yeah. Okay, let's try. Make sure this is fine. I wonder if this is like a different conversation for a different PR for sure. This has nothing to do with the audio or this PR. One thing that might be cool though, one thing that might be good is make this conditional on finding this one mouse. Like, this here knows that it's this mouse. I mean, like, theoretically, I guess this company probably makes more mice, but fingers crossed, hopefully they, like, are the same-ish. I almost think, what if we checked this and only do this stuff if those are true? Then other mice, like this one I tried first, which was just a generic Logitech, regular old wireless USB mouse. Other ones, they would not do this part, so they would continue working in their default boot protocol mode, which can't do everything. It can't do the mouse wheel and I think some other stuff. Like with this mouse, one thing that is rough on it, when you don't change protocols, you don't get click events unless you also move, which is inconvenient for sure. But this code would work around that, right? Because it would be saying, if it is this one Sigma chip mouse that we have here, we go to the other mode. If it's not, then we stay in boot mode. And other mice that I have found, at least, I just tried to click that with my PC mouse. Other mice that I have found, at least, work fine in boot mode. Like, you can't do the scroll wheel, but this app isn't using the scroll wheel. But the click works normal. The click comes through whether or not you're moving for the Logitech mice when they're in boot protocol. The Sigma chip one doesn't. Also seems to support changing the protocol like this. Yeah. Yeah, the drums on the extremes, the drums on the top and the bottom are a bit louder for sure. There's snares hidden somewhere in here, and the snares are kind of quiet. The top cymbal and the bottom, I think it was maybe a kick drum or something, are a bit louder. I'm not sure, but I think the configuration changes the number of bytes that gets read each time, so I don't think you can just not use the configuration change and not change other things in the app. I think that 4 is the number of bytes in boot mode, too. Where was the code for that? So I noticed this was so right here, it's doing 4 bytes, which is the same as, I think the same as boot protocol. Keyboard is, I want to say 8. Mouse, I think, is only 4. Not actually sure, though. Well, okay, but I see what you're saying. It would change where it's at also. That's true. So, X would be in, I don't know the actual indexes, but it'd be X is in index 0, Y is in index 1, or something like that. And then in a different mode, it might be different. It might be X is in index 2 and Y is in index 3 or something, because there's more data. That's a good point. So, yeah, that would make the logic weird. It would have to, it would have to remember if it changed modes or not. Ultimately, it's really not logic that belongs inside of Lars.io Paint, frankly. It's, what would be nice is probably the mouse library, which I think is the other one, right? I don't know if it's doing it for Lars.io. I think it was on Chips Challenge, right? But that one is, oh no, that's the one we're on. Minesweeper. Ultimately, I think this belongs in the mouse library. All of this complexity about which mode it's in and determining which buttons and everything are happening because of that. Ultimately, if we could get that all inside the mouse library, that'd be great. Okay. So this I do think is fine. This I do think is fine. I should still test the Metro. I have 10 minutes. I guess I could go grab the Metro. Let me go grab the Metro. We'll try to do that quick test here as well. And then, if all is well, I can make that one change. We could merge this. So I need actually the Metro, and I need that ribbon cable thing. So I'll be right back with those. Again, I don't have the top-down camera, so bear with me. Give you the play-by-play. I'm plugging in the ribbon cable to the HSTX thing. Trying to. It's a little tough for my large fingers, honestly, but we'll get there. There it is. Let's see. I actually want this way. Oh, I don't have a DAC. I don't have a DAC. I don't even think I have a DAC. Yeah. I didn't even get one of these. Okay. Yeah. I cannot fully test that without getting the DAC. I don't know if it's going to stay. I don't know if it's going to stay in my car. I'm actually going to add that to my cart, though, so I'll try to remember to get one. Okay. It is probably fine, but I will get that ordered and test again with it. We can. This was doing another file too. Yeah, this is doing another file too. Well, another app, I mean. A couple other files. Metro, the chips challenge also here, so we'll look at the code for that. So, if not play sounds, or if audio is none. So yeah, it looks like there was already a Boolean, and now there is another one for when the audio could be none, like if you're in a similar boat as what I am right now, and I don't have the DAC, and I want to run this on the Metro anyway. Presumably this comes from a Boolean that either gets set somewhere or maybe is determined based on the pins or something. Not actually sure if it's manual or automatic. So reading the launcher config to get the volumes. I'm going to do the same thing here. We're going to go back to this just because I find it easier to look at the diff inside of here. So there's, yeah, that one's fine. JSON. So it looks like probably we're doing FruitJam again. Yep, so a lot of these things go away now because they are pretty much handled by peripherals. Launcher config audio. There's all of this initialization going away, changing to FruitJam peripherals only. Same stuff here for the DAC, and it is using the same pins, which matches what was here. And this will actually fall back even further if these pins aren't there. Like if you ran this on a feather, except a feather has those pins, I think. If you ran this on something without those pins, it would basically just not do volume, not do audio, I mean. This is interesting. But this is audio. This is like a project file audio, right? This is not. I think this is like probably an instance of this. Yeah, okay. Set in the definitions. I gotcha. Yeah, display changes. So this was previously explicitly initializing the display. Now it is using this function which will handle all of this for you, and helpfully if the display is already in that config, then it will just keep it there for you instead of releasing and reinitializing, which is what this would have been doing. Yeah, because there would have been, yeah, release is up here, so that's gone now because it happens inside of there if it needs to. Okay, so that was looking pretty good to me. Definitions. I don't know why this. It's kind of weird. Definitions up high, contents are identical. I don't know why it's blue. Usually these are like only blue if they changed. I don't know what's going on with that one. Okay, so fallback for the SD card. So if if you were, like, let's say you moved it to a different device, not the Fruit Jam and not the Metro, and whatever device you're on doesn't have built-in SD card pins, this would have raised an exception before. Now it falls back. Will basically still let you play the game, but it just won't let you use the SD card because there's not one, or it could, well, I mean, because it can't initialize it. I guess there could be one, but it's from an earlier commit. Oh, okay, you removed some changes from there. I see. Okay, so it like changed and then changed back, maybe. That does make sense, yeah, because this is like technically what we are looking at are the list of commits. So if one of those commits changed it and then the other one changed it back, they're both in that list. And so, but then when we look at the file, it's like same as it started. Okay, that does make sense, totally. I did go back to the wrong place though. Let me. Yeah, that's the only change in here, was falling back on the SD card. Okay. So that looks fine to me as well. I will test it out on both again. This one is easier because since I don't have the DAC, I can also test the fallback audio stuff. Like, it should still work without audio. But I will end up getting the DAC probably next week, so I'll test this out with it too. But it does look fine to me. Save for the, it has the same thing as the other one, I will say. Save for the one, same thing that I mentioned in the other one, which is that the, doesn't need to do twice volume. It was a really weird way to phrase it, but this one here doesn't need to set volume. The same thing I deleted in the other one. Okay. Sweet. So I will get a DAC. I will test that out next week, probably. And then once I have done so, I can merge both of these. And then we'll be caught back up on Fruit Jam OS related PRs, I believe. Oh, actually, there's one here. What is this one? Oh, nice. Thank you for working. I hadn't seen this one yet. Thank you for working on this. Yeah, so this is another one being refactored to use that mouse library, which is cool. Like, this is what I think is going to be good. Like, once we get these using that mouse library, if that thing can then handle the protocols and make it invisible to the app, that'll be awesome. And this is like a step in that direction. So improved error handling. I did see a few USB errors from the core as well today. Today what I was doing earlier this afternoon was updating the USB host guides. USB mouse, USB keyboard, and then the controller one. This one. To add the Fruit Jam section, which was not here before. And I also retested all of these examples, and they used to require the hub, CH334F. I'm not sure if that's the right numbers or not, but they used to require the hub. Like, you used to have to put the hub in between the Feather host and the controller, and in between the Metro and the controller. The Fruit Jam obviously has the hub built in, so you wouldn't have to do it there. That no longer is required. Couple new versions of CircuitPython have come out. The latest version works totally fine. Straight up controller, mouse, keyboard, all connected direct to all three devices, are all working. So I was updating these. I will say I did see a couple of those USB errors though, so I think you might be onto something for sure when you said here, like, there are more cases in the core now, I think, that raise errors. And And so the code that uses it might need to be more diligent about catching those and either just trying again or figuring out if something else actually needs to be done. With the recent this week update to the core, you really should try accept catch device queries for the ID product, ID manufacturer. Should try accept. Is that in, did that make it into beta 3? Let me check on that real fast. We're basically at time, so I'm going to be heading out here in just a moment. We'll start doing the wrap up now. If you're interested in more stuff like this, I'll be back over in my own channel tomorrow. I'm not going to be working on this. I think we're going to be diving back into SPY and I2C register stuff. I think that's what I'm going to get into tomorrow. Although I'm not 100%. Maybe something else will catch my fancy in the in-betwixt, but let's look at the release, actually. The release should say, right? 5 days. Oh, but that's 9. Oh, but it'll still be in here. Essentially what I'm looking for is, do I need to do absolute newest or is it in beta 3? And it looks like absolute newest. There's nothing, at least currently, there's nothing listed there about USB. I think it's been Sam, right? Sam Blenny has done a bunch of stuff. No, is it merged already too or no? Let's see. This one, is it author by? There it is, draft. There's one, but it was closed. USB core, that's 3 days ago. Okay. So I need to get absolute newest. You need to get absolute newest. Okay. Yep. I'll test that out as well. And then we may, like you're saying, we may end up having to go back to the other apps and update stuff. Although, nicely, any of the ones that are using that mouse library, the app code, the project code will not have to change. We'll change it in the library and then it'll be done, which is cool. All right, I'm going to head out for now. Like I said, I'll be back tomorrow morning over on my own channel. If you want some more CircuitPython development nitty-gritty stuff, I think, like I said, I'll be getting back into register and SPY bits potentially. I should be back next week as well, as far as I know, for the deep dive at the usual time on Friday afternoon, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central here on the Adafruit channel. And then tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Central over on my channel. I usually drop links in the live broadcast chat when I get started. So if you want to watch along, you can find the links there in the morning tomorrow. Otherwise, I will bid you all farewell. Thank you to everyone who has watched along. Thanks to all the folks in the chat. Thank you to Retired Wizard for all of the improvements and all the stuff you're doing across all these different apps and projects and stuff. I really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone else as well for watching along, and I will see you later.